We are glad that you are here today. Grace to you and peace from God our Father and the Lord Jesus Christ. One slide this morning, one slide only. The content's on the front of the bulletin, but Lisa did a better job. She put an ear and a mouth with it. Do you ever wish your hearing was as sharp as your tongue? That's the point today. Do you ever wish your hearing was as sharp as your tongue? It's marching season. I love marching band. Hopefully, many of you were here Wednesday before last. Benji was a drum major on the stage. He had a marching band going down here. He did a great job. Way to go, Benji. Way to go. He was doing well. He doesn't remember, but he was here. No, he did a great job. I could see march director all the way through him, drum major all the way. Sort of building, going. First song today, y'all were doing well. We were singing along. You started to build. Then a little direction. It built a little more. And then when you stood, I don't know if you got it in the back, down front, it came to life. It was like the conductor in front of the band saying, okay, you woke up, now give me some more. Bring it on, let's have it. And you made that presentation in that way. But marching season can be critical. I've told you the story of a girl. I think it was from a band in Pittsburgh, Texas. We were at marching competition about this time of year. We marched military block in East Texas at that time, and they didn't have a huge band. It was about 30 yards wide, about 20 yards deep when they finally got their block together to come into the stands and make their grand entrance at the end of their program. And just as the girl that was on the 50-yard line did a to the rear and headed in, a little white started showing just about down in this area. I'm sure it was a little embarrassing because they had solid black uniforms. Solid black uniforms. Clarinet player, she was bold. She stayed right with it. Didn't lose a beat. By the time her left foot stopped on the sideline, she was exposed. Almost fully. It was bad. White everywhere, as far as you could see in the middle of a sea of black. I wonder what the judges saw. How can you look at anything else? It was just there. We didn't have many options back in that day. Under Armour hadn't been invented yet, so I don't know what we would have worn 45 years ago, when all that was taking place. White underwear is what you had. I'm sure glad she had hers on, number one. I'm sure she was too. I'm sure she was very glad that she had hers on. The lesson for the day might be, wear undergarments to the nearest color of your uniform as possible, because you never know about zippers. If they offer you suspenders, take them. If they offer you suspenders and a belt, take them both. It's better to be safe than sorry. You know you love someone when they or you can tell you that their fly is open. Now, I checked mine before I came up, so y'all don't have to look for me, but that's how you really know that you love someone or that someone loves you. Little boys go all day long, never say anything to anyone. Finally, you get a good enough friend. XYZ, barn's open. Heard the new one on on NCIS the other night. Gibbs told someone getting into the elevator that the Buick was out of the garage. Well, I thought that was a pretty good one. I like that all right. You know, we get concerned about this exposure and about whether or not we can tell someone that. Is it safe to tell someone that their fly is open? And what does it really say if they find out an hour later that you've known for an hour and you didn't tell them? You knew that for an hour? Really? I just thought I was attractive today. No, I was. But you know, that's just an outward expression. There's something that really reveals your heart, that tells everybody what's open, and it's your mouth. Do you love someone enough to tell them when their mouth is open and they're letting out everything that's in their heart? Maybe at school you do it this way. They come and say, oh, did you hear? And they give you a name and they say, wait just a minute. What? No, have you talked to that person yet? No, I'm talking about that person, not to that person. Well, come on, let's go with me and let's talk to. I don't want to go with you and talk to them. I want to talk to you about them. Sorry, there's no room for gossip here. You're fixing to let out what's in your heart. You're going to tell everybody what you're thinking. Or some of us with our great words, our great language, we reveal everything that's in our heart with what we're about to say. And we think that it's so awful for a girl in a marching band to hold to her guns and hit the sideline. And we are so awed that there was some sort of revelation. But we hear so much regurgitation from people's faces all day long, we don't even think about it. Jesus says that's where you're letting people know what comes out of your heart. That was read to us earlier. Or let your speech be always seasoned, as it were, with salt, that it may give grace to those who hear. That was read to us earlier. Earlier in James, back in chapter 1, James has already broached the subject that he's going to talk about today. He says, let everyone be quick to hear, slow to speak, and slow to anger. I want you to be quick to hear it and slow to speak and slow to anger. And then he brings us to our text today and he says, boy, we've got this weapon. And I'm not worried about seeing you physically. I'm worried about what your tongue is lashing people with. How bad it's hurting. The major regrets in my life all have to do with the misuse of my tongue. I would rather be hit a blow than be stabbed with a word. It will hurt a shorter period of time, and it won't leave near as deep a scar. I would much rather strike someone than cut them to the heart with my wit, because I had something to say that didn't need to be said. And James is looking at Christians and he's saying, you've got all of this wonderful equipment. Well, hear what he says. Let not many of you become teachers, my brethren, knowing that as such we will incur a stricter judgment. We've got a lot of people at church, that's their favorite verse. Would you teach a class? Sorry, I read James 3:1, said don't be a teacher. Judgment gets worse, can't teach. Not what he's talking about. I don't think. But maybe it is. He says when you open up your mouth to give communication, when you start sharing words, when you start laying information out there, then you're going to be viewed. God sees and hears. Of course, Jesus said that the things that you said in your heart and in your bedroom were going to be shouted from the rooftop, so I don't think you're safe in that way. But here he comes along and he says, he's just trying to warn us that when you put yourself out there as a voice of message, of authority, that you need to be very cautious with the words you're going to use and how you're going to use those words, because there is a standard that is being upheld. And you can't have that standard for yourself and not hold others to it. You can't have that standard for yourself and not be held accountable to it. And so he says in verse 2, for we all stumble in many ways. If anyone does not stumble in what he says, he's a perfect man, able to bridle the whole body as well. Whatever you're working on today, if you can go without stumbling in what you say, that's where you're going to be gaining. That's where your advantage is going to come. If every word out of your mouth is seasoned, as it were, with grace to give a blessing to those that hear, then you're on the right track. You're on the right track. Do you know what we did for the poor girl that had the episode at band? We had a standing ovation and applauded. She was faithful to the task that was given to her, and she didn't let anything deter her from it. And to have done anything other than what she did would have ruined what the band was trying to do. She got a standing ovation and not laughed at, because that point had come about 20 yards from the sideline. By the time she got to the sideline, all of us were empathetic. All of us said, that could be me. All of us knew that we had been in that place. And that's what he's saying here. All of us stumble in many ways, and all of us stumble in what we say. If you've never stumbled in what you said, then you're a perfect person. You have reached the goal. I think one of the people I hurt the most was an elder at the church at Lasbuddy. And I've told this story before. But he led singing on Sunday morning, and he was a mumbler. And he was a great song leader. When he led singing, he sang well, but he mumbled when he talked. And a lot of times you couldn't get the number. And he would go to leading. And I got up in the pulpit just like this and said something cute and silly at Willie's expense. Willie Waddell was his name. A great friend of mine. A great mentor. But I could look at Willie's face as I said it and know that I had cut him to the heart. I had taken what for him was a lifelong known difficulty, and I had ridiculed it with a word that made everyone laugh and hurt my brother to the heart. I would give anything if I'd never said those words. You know, once they're out there, you can't hardly corral them. You can't hardly get them back. I had that illustration out of one of those chick flick movies. You've Got Mail. And just when you know exactly what you want to say, at the exact moment that you say it, you know that regret always follows. I've been building this up, waiting for this. I've been priming myself. I know exactly how I'm going to respond the next time. And the next time I respond, and immediately I'm the one that's hurt with this response that I've come up with. Well, now, there are power images that he gives to us in verses 3 through 5. Now, if we put bits into the horses' mouths so that they will obey us, we direct their entire body as well. A horse's bit is not very big and hopefully not too severe if you have a pretty nice horse. But you put a bit in their mouth and you direct them wherever you want them to go because of that control. He says in verse 3, look at the ships also, verse 4, though they are so great and are driven by strong winds, they're still directed by a very small rudder wherever the inclination of the pilot desires. Huge ship. Proportionately, look at the rudder on it and see the direction that it's going. It doesn't take very much to change the course. It doesn't take very much to change the course of your life. A very small tongue can do it. And that's what he says in verse 5. So also the tongue is a small part of the body. Yeah, right. And yet it boasts of great things. See how great a forest is set aflame by such a small fire. Just a spark. Just a spark from your tongue. You can light someone's face up, or you can turn their lights out just with a spark of your words. He says, the whole forest is set on fire. It's so sad. When lightning strikes a fire and it goes, God does things. I understand that. There's tinder that's there. There's spark ignition that's there. But what if I just forget to put my campfire out and the wind gets up and a little spark jumps and suddenly, poof, it's gone. Well, what if you're at school and a little word jumps out and it was just a little word? Didn't mean much to you. It could be fat or gay or skinny or tall. It doesn't matter what the word is when you're at school. Any word can jump out of your mouth and begin to be devastating and destroy and travel places that you can't get it back. You just can't collect it. So that forgiveness finds itself as the only means of collecting up words we've said, and all we can say is, forgive me. I asked Willie to forgive me that night in the next sermon. And Willie did. But I never once forgot that event. Never once forgot it. It stays with me today. And Willie's been dead for several years. I haven't preached in Lasbuddy for 37. I still remember the look on his face when I cut him to the quick. The tongue is a fire, verse 6. The very world of iniquity. The tongue is set among our members as that which defiles the entire body and sets on fire the course of our life and is set on fire by hell. For every species of beast and birds, of reptiles and creatures of the sea is tamed and has been tamed by the human race, but no one can tame the tongue. It is a restless evil and full of deadly poison. With it we bless our Lord and Father, and with it we curse men who have been made in the likeness of God. From the same mouth come both blessing and cursing. My brethren, these things ought not to be this way. Does a fountain send out from the same opening both fresh and bitter water? Can a fig tree, my brethren, produce olives, or a vine produce figs? Nor can salt water produce fresh. Boy, we get our tongues rolling and we find ourselves in the midst of that environment. And suddenly we've got a little crowd and we've made a little comment. And pretty soon, if we're not real careful, we have to lie to back up the one we told. It's always tough to see kids telling that. You know they don't really know what they're talking about, and they're letting everyone know they don't know what they're talking about, but they've talked about it and now they can't say, sorry, I don't have a clue what I'm talking about. I'm going to be quiet now. Wouldn't you respect that? No, now I've got to tell a fib or an exaggeration or a lie to cover up my ignorance. But kids aren't the only ones that do it, right? Adults do it too. And instead of just saying, wait a minute, I said something that I have no information about. I don't have a clue. I don't know. Forgive me, I spoke out of turn. I don't know what I'm talking about. We find ourselves with the tongue so alive in our bodies, revealing what's in the heart. The tongue is so revealing. It shows your true nature. That's what Jesus said in the reading. It's not what you eat and goes out that bothers anybody. It's what you have in your heart that you let out your mouth. That shows everybody what you are. Yes, I was at church this morning. You were? With that mouth? You sang those songs with that mouth? Now these words come from it? That can't be. You're going to tell me that story right after you showed me your cross necklace? How's that going to work? I can't hear that story. You're going to cut that person? No, you can't do that. Let your mouth come under control. There's only one way that this works. It's on your take-home written in your bulletin. It won't come on the screen. But if you will give total control of your vessel over to the Spirit will control your mouth. You know, it sounds a lot different when the Holy Spirit controls your mouth rather than your spirit controlling your mouth. It comes out totally differently. You have different experiences, different language. Oh, you'll still say silly things. But they'll be under the Spirit control, and people will know they didn't mean that. Their heart wasn't there. It wasn't their intent. They weren't trying to damage anyone. They just got their mouth in gear before their brain started up. Happens to all of us all the time. We get wisdom today at lunch. Get wisdom grub. It's lots of fun. If you haven't gone, you need to go. It'll be a great time. I assure you, you will not be sorry you were there. But let's show them the wisdom of using our tongues well, conversing about things that are important. Well, it's fine to be a little silly with silly kids. There's nothing wrong with that. Until it crosses that line of, wait a minute, this hurts someone. This isn't out of love. This isn't going to bless anyone. If you hear this morning's sermon, it's the best wisdom I can give you. Come under the Spirit control and let Him control your mouth and see what happens to your life. Maybe your mouth's got you in trouble this week and you need to use it to confess this morning. You need to let people know, I'm sorry for what I said and what I did. I want to confess with my mouth. Or maybe you want to confess with your mouth Jesus as Lord and set Him apart as God in your heart and allow the whole world to know that you believe that He is the Son of God. Well, now there's a good use of the tongue. To stand here and someone say, do you believe that Jesus Christ is the Son of God? And you say, I do. That's a good use of your tongue this morning. Nothing wrong with that. to make the good confession. You see, God put it in your body. That means it can be good or bad. James is telling us the bad of it. You can use it for good, to pick someone up, to encourage them. But if you're not careful, Satan will twist it, and your words will tear down what it took you years to build in a relationship. You seen that happen? A years-long relationship destroyed by a couple of words. If you're in that condition, make things right with someone. Forgive someone. Let your heart be known. As together we stand and as we sing.